Why are we sitting down and talking today?
So we put out a press release, the Sheriff's Office put out a press release informing the public yesterday about an offender that was found incompetent for trial, but he had been held in my jail for attempted second-degree murder and a whole host of other charges. Unfortunately, with that incompetency evaluation, he was released from my facility, but I felt as if he was still a very serious danger to the public, and I wanted the public to know this is a situation where I believe the criminal justice system has failed you, and you need to be aware that this person's out in the community amongst you.
What was your reaction and your initial thoughts when you realized what was going on here?
It was a gut punch. You know, as a law enforcement person, the last thing you want to do is release someone who is dangerous out into the community. It's demoralizing to see the criminal justice system fail the public the way it has, and to know that it's by no act of any one particular person who's involved in the system. It's by a change in the law, in my opinion. Yeah. It's a gut punch. I don't want to see this type of person ending up out in society, especially with not even going to trial. I mean, it's just frustrating. It's extremely frustrating.
How was this new change in law explained to you?
Essentially, it lowered, in my mind, it lowers the standard for a competency evaluation, so that if this person's had a ruling of being incompetent in the last 5 years, that just kind of carries over with each subsequent charge, and it's just basically a check-in to see if those same standards are still in effect with this individual. Long story short, it shortens the timeline of how the prosecutor and the defense go back and forth on trying to determine whether or not this person's competent for trial. There's way more detail to the bill, but the long and short of it is it gives the offender the upper hand, in my opinion.
I've been covering this
Yes.
for the past year. You're really the first law enforcement official that's not a district attorney willing to sit down and talk about it. Why is it so important for you?
So oftentimes what happens down at the state capitol goes unnoticed, and you know, when the effects of these really bad laws start to hit the public, it's always, well, why isn't law enforcement done more? Why aren't the judges doing more? Why isn't the prosecutor done more? And the only way that sometimes the general public knows that, hey, there's a break in the system that wasn't caused by the system itself, is to shine a spotlight on it. And while I hate to use this as the example, it is the example, and this is what the public needs to know. You know, these are not safe people to be out on the street. If they were safe people to be out on the street, they wouldn't have contact with law enforcement. And when someone is deemed incompetent to stand trial, especially on the charge of attempted second-degree murder, I can't imagine, it's hard for me to even rationalize how the fix for that is just to release them into the community and expect that they're not going to have those same intentions again. The public needs to know, and they need to put pressure on their lawmakers to fix this and fix it right now.
Have you sat with the idea that this might not be the last time that you have this happen?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of sleepless nights since learning, you know, what was going to happen with this individual. This is not where I wanted to end up. It's not where this offender should have ended up. But it's the reality of what happens when bad policy is turned into bad legislation.
Records show this individual has had a lot of charges in the last couple of years, just in 2022. What do you expect to happen now that they've been released?
I expect that there'll be a little bit of a lull, and this person's going to end up in some kind of criminal behavior again. I hope no one's injured. I hope he's not injured. But quite frankly, the reality is it's probably going to be a violent encounter, and you know, if he's to come into contact with citizens in Weld County, at least I want him to know that, hey, you should be very protective of yourself. He's a violent individual.
What has the response from the community been like so far?
I think it's been overwhelmingly supportive of the fact that we put the information out, but shock and rage that this circumstance can even happen. I mean, the good part is people are saying, hey, you know, they're pointing the concern where it should be. We have a law in place that has to get changed. I don't know if the lawmakers are listening, but I hope their constituents are definitely calling them.
When you learned about the change in the law, did you ask yourself, what did they think was going to happen?
You know, this is one that I'm on our legislative committee for County Sheriffs of Colorado. When it came through, we all said this is a bad idea, but this is the fight that the District Attorney's Council will have to make. I think the lawmakers probably thought, well, the people that this bill is going to most impact are probably low-level offenders. You know, the person who's struggling with a mental health issue, maybe gets picked up for shoplifting, and that person probably is better suited to do some kind of recovery in a community setting. And that may be the case. But you have to write laws based on the worst case scenario, and the worst case scenario is what we're talking about right now. This isn't an isolated case. There's been others in Colorado, but the fact that one can happen is it shows you the holes that are in this bill.
I know this case wasn't in your specific jurisdiction.
Right.
Are you able to talk at all about what the allegations were in these two cases, though?
Yes, I can speak to the one in Greeley only because the victim's family reached out to me once this person was in my custody because their concern was, hey, he might be released. From what I know, the victim in this case and his circle of friends were just trying to make their way home. They'd had a few drinks that evening, and they were approached by the suspect and I guess a few of his cohorts, and you know, there was an intention to try to create some kind of conflict. The ultimate victims kind of stepped in the way and said, hey, you know, tried to get his friends on past the incident, and the rest is all on video. A short fight occurs. Obviously, I think the victim had a little bit of alcohol in his system. He turned his attention for just a second, and the suspect took advantage of that and did so in a very violent way.
So was anyone else arrested in this case as well?
I don't believe so. I think just the individual that is in question.
Is there anything else you want to add I haven't asked about?
Not that I can think of.
Anything we didn't touch on? Anything you can think of?
You know this issue way better than most.
I do feel like I think about it like the back of my hand. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of anything else, but I think we covered all of it.
Yeah, I know there are some Republicans that supported this bill, and I would encourage you to reach out to them. I really would.
You know, and that's another topic to touch on a little bit, but I remember when learning about this amendment and the change, there was no funding passed to ensure that people could get into beds, could get into hospitals. And it passed with a lot of bipartisan support. I think maybe only 2 Republicans, if I remember right, voted no, both out of El Paso County. I could be wrong. But what do you think of that, just making of the fact that they didn't pass any funding with it? Colorado's in this massive budget deficit, and then...
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the mental health system in Colorado is broke. I mean, it is, and when I say broke, not just financially, the system doesn't work very well. And we as a state, the legislature as a state, keeps prioritizing things that, quite frankly, aren't aimed at dealing with the mental health issue. Until our legislators and our governor get serious about actually tackling this issue and putting funds where they need to be, it's going to be something that continues to become a problem. You can pass all the laws you want, but if there's not a financial tool to help make those laws work, they obviously don't.